Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we were talking about a piece of tech that, for a lot of us, is the only thing between a really nice ride and just, well, pure terror.
Yeah, if you're a road cyclist, you definitely know what we're talking about. You know that beep.
Oh, you know that beep. For years, the Garmin Varia RTL515, it's just been the gold standard. It's the device that gave us eyes in the back of our heads.
It really did. It changed the whole psychology of riding on the road. It turned, just hoping into actual awareness. Before you just kind of prayed the car behind you saw you.
And after, you knew it was there. But let's be honest, that device has been looking a little tired. We've been living in a USB-C world for years, and we're still digging around for micro USB cables.
For our most important safety device, no less. But the wait is over. It's 2026, and the successor is finally here. The Garmin RearVue A20.
And on the surface, it looks like a modern update, a facelift. But as we dug into the sources for today, we realized this isn't just a spec bump. It's a pretty fundamental shift in how this tech works and who it works for.
That's the real question, isn't it? Is this the new standard for everyone? Or does it just overcomplicate something that was beautiful because it was so simple?
Exactly. And are we maybe watching the end of the open ecosystem in cycling tech?
That's a heavy question for a taillight. But you're right, that's the core tension here.
So to get into it, we've pulled together some real heavy hitters. We're leaning a lot on the deep technical breakdown from the 5K runner. That's www.the5runner.com. They really get into the nitty-gritty.
And we also have the great hands-on analysis from Shane Miller, GP Llama.
BP Llama is fantastic at finding those little usability quirks, the things that, the marketing brochures tend to hide.
He's the one who will tell you if it actually works when it's pouring rain, not just in a lab.
And of course, we're cross-referencing everything with the official Garmin Owner's Manual, which has some, let's just say, very interesting fine print.
Always read the manual. That's where the truth hides.
Okay, so let's get into it. Segment 1. The physical overhaul. And I think we have to start with the one thing that has probably caused the most celebration online.
The USB-C port. Finally. At last.
It feels ridiculous to be this excited about a charging port in 2026, but the community has been backing for this. That old micro USB was it was a point of failure.
Oh, it was so finicky. And the 5K runner points out, it's not just about convenience. USB-C is just a more robust, more waterproof standard. But if you flip the unit over, there's actually a bigger change.
What's that?
Screws.
Screws. You mean we can actually open it?
You can. The battery is user-replaceable. And that is huge.
That is a massive shift for Garmin. I mean, usually these things are glued shut, the battery dies, the whole thing is just e-waste.
Precisely. Now, this is almost certainly driven by those EU right-to-repair regulations. But whatever the reason, the outcome for us, for the user, is that this $300 device isn't disposable anymore.
That's a big deal. Speaking of life, let's talk about the battery life on a ride. The old 515 was, okay, it was acceptable, but you were always a little anxious about it.
Yeah, the specs on the 820 are honestly pretty impressive. The 5K runner highlighted this as the absolute headline feature. We're talking 24 hours of battery life in day flash mode.
And day flash is that erratic blinking pattern that most of us use.
They correct, it's the default. The old 515, it tapped out around 16 hours, so you're getting a 50% increase. That's the difference between charging every other ride and maybe once a week.
Wow. And GP Llama made a really smart point about why that matters for everyone, not just, the ultra-endurance crowd.
Right. It's about degradation. All batteries lose capacity. It's just chemistry. So if you start with 16 hours, after a couple of years, maybe you're down to 10. But if you start with 24...
You've got way more headroom. Even after it degrades, you're still getting great runtime.
It just delays the point where the device becomes annoying.
Yeah.
He also mentioned the solid mode runtime, which is legally required in a lot of places at night.
Like in Germany, right. They're very strict about no flashing.
Exactly. STVZO regulations. Solid mode is now up to 10 hours, from just 6 on the old one. 6 hours. That's barely enough for a long Sunday ride. 10 hours covers almost anything.
Okay, but, physics is physics. You can't just add a bigger battery and screws without paying some kind of price.
And that price is weight. It jumps from 71 grams to 90 grams.
19 grams. I can hear the weight weenies just gasping.
It sounds trivial, but people pay a lot of money to save 20 grams. But I think even they would agree. For a safety device, trading 19 grams for 50% more battery, that's a good deal.
There's also a weird design change. The light is now at the bottom of the unit. It just looks upside down.
It does look a little odd,
Yeah.
but the 5K runner points out a really practical reason. If you use a saddlebag, The old design often had the light blocked by the bag.
Oh, right. I've had that happen. You stuff a jacket in there and suddenly your $200 light is invisible.
Exactly. So by moving the light to the bottom, it stays visible. But this does push the radar sensor itself higher up the seat post.
And does that matter? Does moving it up a couple inches change anything?
Well, that takes us right into segment 2, radar performance. Because moving the sensor is just the tip of the iceberg here.
Okay, so let's talk numbers. Does it see further?
It does. The detection range is up to about 175 meters. The old one was 140.
So a 25% increase, that gives you, what, an extra few seconds of warning for a fast car?
And in safety, seconds are everything. But the more controversial change is the beam width. The radar now sees a 60-degree cone behind you.
My gut reaction is that wider is better. You want to see everything, right?
You'd think so. But this is where GP Lama's analysis is so critical. He argues that wider isn't always better.
Really? What's the downside of seeing more?
False positives. If the beam is too wide, it starts picking up cars on, say, a parallel service road.
Yeah.
Things that aren't actually a threat to you.
And if it beeps when there's no threat, you learn to ignore the beep.
You got it. It's the boy who cried wolf problem. On the flip side, if it's too narrow, you miss cars on curvy roads. GP Lama felt that 40 to 50 degrees was kind of the sweet spot. 60 might just be too much noise.
Interesting. So they might have over-engineered it, but what's the tech behind this? The 5K runner mentioned a frequency shift.
Yes, this is the secret sauce. The old radar was on the 24 gigahertz band. The new 820 moves to a 60 gigahertz V-band frequency.
Okay, what does that mean for us non-engineers? Why does that matter?
Think of it like screen resolution. 24 gigahertz is like standard def TV. It can see a blob. It knows something is there. 60 gigahertz is like 4K. It has so much more precision it can distinguish details.
And that precision is what unlocks these new hero features that Garmin is advertising.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because the radar picture is so much clearer, the software can now do new things. 1, vehicle classification. Is it a small, medium, or large vehicle?
A motorcycle versus a truck.
Right. 2, lane change detection, because you see if that car is moving over to pass you. And 3, a smart brake light.
Okay, on paper, that sounds amazing. Knowing a semi is coming versus a scooter, that feels like information I want.
It does. But there's one classic radar problem it claims to fix. And that brings us to segment 3, the same speed feature.
Ah, the shadowing problem. I've had this happen. A car slows down to match your speed, waiting to pass, and then poof, it just disappears from the screen.
That's just how Doppler radar works. No speed difference, no detection. And it's terrifying because that car right on your wheel is the most dangerous one.
So the 820 claims to solve this. It can see a car even if it's matching my speed.
It claims to. The marketing calls it same speed detection. But, and this is a huge but, both our sources found some pretty serious caveats buried in the manual.
Oh, here we go. The fine print.
The manual states that this feature is limited or unavailable under certain conditions.
Such as?
At slower speeds or in bad weather, like rain or snow.
Wait, slower speeds and rain. That describes half my rides if I'm grinding up a hill in a drizzle.
That's exactly the 5K runner's reaction. It's baffling. That's precisely when you're most vulnerable, and that's when the feature might just, not work.
That's almost worse than not having it.
That's GP Lama's fear.
Yeah.
It's about reliance. If you start to trust that it sees every car, you might stop checking over your shoulder. But if the feature is inconsistent, that's dangerous.
So, great promise, but check your shoulder anyway.
Always check your shoulder. Always.
Okay, so hardware's a beast. Radar is high res, but with some questions. But now we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Segment 4, the ecosystem controversy.
Right. This is the part where everyone really needs to listen closely, especially if you don't own a Garmin computer.
I ride with a Wahoo. I love it. What does the 820 offer me?
It offers you better battery life.
That's it.
And that's about it.
What about the lane change alerts? The vehicle sizes? All the hero features?
You won't see them. They're locked behind proprietary protocols. They only work if you pair the 820 with a newer Garmin Edge computer, the by 40 or by 50 series.
That feels incredibly cynical. Like they're just trying to force me to buy a new computer.
It's easy to see it that way.
Yeah.
But GP Lama actually breaks down the technical reason, and it's a bit more nuanced. The whole cycling world runs on this open standard called ANT+O.
Right, it's why my pedals can talk to your computer.
Exactly. But the ANT+ profile for radar is old. It basically has a code for car coming and how fast. It literally doesn't have the words in its language for medium car changing lanes.
So the standard hasn't caught up.
Right. And updating it takes time, committees. Garmin didn't want to wait, so they just built their own private language. And Bluetooth, by the way, is too slow for these kinds of instant safety alerts.
So we are moving from this open playground to a walled garden. If you want the cool new toys, you have to be all in on Garmin.
That is the trend. But GP Llama raised another fascinating point. Even if you have the new Garmin, do you actually want all this information?
The information overload argument.
Exactly. Picture it. You're tired, you're on a busy road, you glance at your screen. Do you need to process a tiny icon that means medium vehicle changing lanes? Or do you just need a big red bar that screams, car back?
I see his point. The cognitive load. Simple is faster.
Red means danger. Green means clear. That's instant. Deciphering icons takes a fraction of a second longer, and it takes your eyes off the road for a fraction of a second longer.
So in a weird way, the simple version might actually be safer.
It's a strong argument. Just because you can show the data doesn't mean you should. Which brings us to the value. Segment 5. Price and the verdict. Because this thing is not cheap.
No, it is not. The price has jumped significantly. It's $300 in the US, $259 in the UK. And in Australia, it's almost $470.
And that's a serious hike. The old RTL515 was usually in that $200 range, so you're paying a huge premium.
And if I'm a Wahoo user, I'm paying that premium for USB-C and a bigger battery. And that's it.
Pretty much. Which begs the question, what happens to the old 515?
The 5K runner thinks it'll stick around till stock runs out, but don't expect updates. It seems Garmin is just moving up market. They're not trying to compete with the cheaper options anymore.
They're positioning this as the luxury safety device.
So what's the final word from our sources? Is it a must-buy?
It's a split decision. It really depends on who you are. The 5K runner is pretty optimistic. They look at the raw tech, the 60 gigahertz radar, and they say this puts Garmin in a league of its own. From a pure engineering view, it's a masterpiece.
But GP Llama is more cautious.
He is. And his choice of words is really specific. He refuses to call the 820 the new standard.
Why not? The 515 was the standard.
Because a standard implies it works for everyone. It implies universality. Because of the lock-in, he prefers to call it a new benchmark.
But that's a crucial distinction. It sets a new high bar for performance, but it fails on compatibility.
Exactly. And he warns that if the whole industry follows this proprietary path, we all lose in the long run.
Okay, so bottom line, who is this for?
Here's the breakdown. If you are deep in the Garmin ecosystem, you have the new edge, the watch, everything, and you are a data nerd who wants every possible metric, then yes, this is the ultimate upgrade for you. It's the Ferrari of radars.
And for the rest of us.
If you use a Wahoo or a Karoo, or you just want that simple set it and forget it safety, honestly, the price hike is really hard to justify. You're paying for features you literally can't see. You might be better off grabbing a discounted 515 while you still can.
Which is the lingering thought I want to leave everyone with today. We've spent a decade celebrating how all our bike tech just works together. It didn't matter what brand you bought.
It was a golden age of interoperability.
But as these devices get smarter, as they move from simple sensors to complex AI, we're seeing the walls go up. Are we moving to a future where your taillight dictates which GPS computer you're allowed to buy?
It really feels like we're crossing that line right now. And in the tech world, once those walls go up, they very rarely come back down.
Something to think about the next time you hear that beep. Is it the sound of safety, or is it the sound of a door closing? Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Drive safe, ride safe, and we'll see you next time.